Okay guys, welcome. This is the second video in the dialogue tree how-to, and we've got it now working in Unity, so what I'll do is I'll show you that first. So this is the Unity project that I've got. There's a couple of things to take note of here. One, I've included the dialogue tree DLL into the assets. I've also got the test dialogue XML we generated last time, and I've got a prefab which is a Gui window for it. So let's have a look at the Gui window. I've got one deactivated here. If I reactivate it, you can see we've got, just order these a little bit so they're in the right order. So we've got a bit of text for the NPC name. This is for all the placeholders. These don't do anything at the moment. We've got the dialogue text, which is a text area here. And then we have 3 or 4 buttons rather for the options. So we've got option 1, option 2 and option 3, and then we've got an exit conversation button. So if I deactivate this and run the project, you can see what happens is our chatty NPC, our chatty NPC has this Npc Dialogue Script. So what this does is it takes in a prefab for the conversation window and a reference to which data file to load. And as you can see, the first thing that it does when it starts up is it creates a clone of this. So we're running this now. That can, sorry, let me just get rid of that. So if we run this now, this will now create a dialogue. And you can see, hi, welcome to the test dialogue, and we've got the same options that we had last time. So let me just maximize that. So we've got the same options that we had last time. We've got you smell and hello, and we've also got end conversation. End conversation straight away exits the conversation. And let me just maximize this on play. So when we do the options, this works exactly the same way as the console demo we had in the last video. So if I click you smell, it goes to the correct node and says, well, that's rude, I don't want to talk to you anymore, and it only gives you the exit option. Now potentially, I guess this could give us, in this setup, because we've got the end conversation button down here, we could actually just remove this exit button, but clicking that will exit the window. So if we run the project again, we've now got back to the same place. This always starts at index 0. If we click hello, it now gets us these options. So we click hello, it's now given us the next node in the tree. Hello, my name is, NPC name, what's yours? And you've now got the other options that we had. And you can see it's added in, it's activated and deactivated the buttons based on which ones we have. This does limit us that we can only have 3 options in the tree, right? Which could be a limit, or it could not be. At the moment, I don't see there being any more than like yes or no options, because the dialogue system in the space game is going to be pretty simple. But I think to expand this, we should have an option with like an N options, which will generate buttons on the fly, which I think will be a better solution. But for now, this is what we're going to do. So, yep, call me player name, nice to meet you player name, and then this is an exit node, so we've got exit. So let's look at the code for that. We've got this NPC dialogue class. This is using the dialogue tree, and we have a reference to the dialogue tree project here. Now, in the solution, so I can edit the files, I've just included this dialogue tree, as I've just add existing project and added in dialogue tree here, so I can edit the files and debug them. I've not really had to do any of that. The only change that I've made from the last video is I have moved this load dialogue into the dialogue class as a static function. I realised after I uploaded everything yesterday that I've spelled dialogue wrong here. It's one of those stupid words, so I need to refactor that. I've not done it yet. So we've included that. One thing you need to note is if you have used an external DLL reference, you need to include the DLL as an asset right there. Took me a while to figure that out. If you just in here, import new asset, and then you can pick I don't have. That's interesting. It's removed the asset from there, removed the DLL from there. But that basically you just pick the DLL that you want. So we've got a private dialogue. We've got a private game object, which is a dialogue window, and then we have references to the different bits inside that window. So the node text, the option buttons, and the exit button. We have this selected option equals -2. This is here so that we can, while the dialogue is running in the background, other functions can change this value, which will set the navigation mode. We've got this dialogue data file path, which is a public string that is provided when you add in an NPC dialogue here. And we've got a dialogue window prefab, which is the prefab that we are using to instantiate a new window. So in the startup method, we've got dialogue equals load dialogue. So this basically gets us our, it calls that static load dialogue, and that deserializes assets / whatever the path is to a dialogue object. So it deserializes this file to a dialogue object. We're then getting a reference to the canvas so we can add stuff in. We are then instantiating a new dialogue window prefab, and someone's hammering outside, and getting a reference to it. We are then getting the we're setting the parent of this to the canvas, so this basically puts it inside the canvas, like, oops. So that puts our dialogue that we've created programmatically here inside the canvas. We're then getting a reference to the transform, and we're setting our transform to 0, 0, 0. The dialogue prefab, and I might not do this in future. Let me just turn that off now. I might change this in future, but the anchor point is at the center, so by setting it to 0, 0, 0, it anchors the whole thing to the center of the screen. I think I'll probably carry on doing like top left, top right. The top left positioning in future, but this works for now. And then we're getting the game objects for the buttons, for the text for the buttons, and for the exit button. Bit of blacksmithing happening outside apparently. So I'll be right back. Okay, it seems that the hammering has stopped, and I can't really remember whereabouts I was. So what we've got here is we've set the position to the center of the window. I might be repeating myself here. We've then got references, set these up here to the different option buttons in the dialogue and the exit button. And then we have attached an event listener delegate. We've attached an event listener to the on-click event of the exit button, and we're just using that delegate function and saying set selected option to -1. You remember -1 is the index of our exit node. So then we are setting the dialogue window as inactive, so it will hide it, and then we're running the dialogue. So that might seem counterintuitive because the first thing we're doing in run dialogue is setting it active again. But this is for testing. Eventually this run dialogue will be an event that will happen based on different event things. So then we have this public void run dialogue, which starts the coroutine run, and then we have the coroutine run. The other thing we have is a public void set selected option, which allows us to tie this up and use it as an event handler, and basically that just puts the selected option private int here to whatever we pass in, which allows other things outside of this while the dialogue is running to set stuff, particularly our buttons. This might be better to have this as private, because I can't think of any reason why we would want, right now I can't think of any reason why I would want this to something outside of the NPC Dialogue class to want to the NPC Dialogue controller to want to set this, but let's leave it as that. So we've got this IEnumerator run, which is so we've got IEnumerator run, and this is a coroutine, and you can tell it's a coroutine because it returns IEnumerator, and it has occasionally these yield whatever. Anything with a yield return something is a coroutine in Unity, and what happens is while the game's running, this is running in the background, so it starts this this function. When you call start coroutine, this will start running in the background, so Unity will carry on running the game, but this will also be running in its own sort of separate area in the background. And the first thing we're doing in this is we're setting the dialog window set active to true, so it appears on the screen. We're then doing exactly the same thing that we were doing in the run dialog in the previous console demo. So we're setting our current node to 0, so in node ID equals 0, so we're starting at the first node, which is the entry node. And what we're doing is we are looping for as long as the node ID is not -1, and -1 is our exit node ID. And we're calling this display node function and giving it the node to display, which is dialog nodes node ID, exactly the same as we were doing in the console option. We're then setting the selected option to -2. I have this set, I'm using this basically because we're already using -1 as a value for showing that we're an exit node. -2 is an unset value, as it were, so it's saying that we haven't selected anything yet. And then this whole function is just sitting there and waiting until that doesn't equal -2. And we're doing this with this yield wait for second 0.25. What this will do is every time this loops, it'll sit there and wait for a quarter of a second. So that just pauses this dialogue, it pauses this function, as it were, until the user has selected an option and changed this selected option value. So if we go back to here and run this, so all the time in the background now, that is sitting there looping round that while loop, saying, is it still -2? Yep, loop. Is it still -2? Yep, loop. Is it still -2? Yep, loop. And then if I click end conversation, it's now on -1, it's not -2. Stop that and carry on processing the so this is now -1, so it's not going to do this. It's going to go on and do the it's going to set the node ID to -1, which will come back up here. Node ID now is -1, and it will set the window active to false and exit this function. So this run function has now stopped working. If the node ID isn't 1, so we've selected an option. Sorry, if the node ID isn't -1, like we've selected an option from the list, then we're going to continue around here and display that node. So display node, I've left these in here in places, so you can kind of see what the console things are doing. I'll actually remove those. So what we're doing is we're getting the text component of the node's node text object. Now this is an important thing. This text object is in the Unity Engine UI, so you have to put a using function up here, otherwise you won't be able to This is basically the text control on the button. So if we go in here, you can see here this has a text script attached to it, right? And at the moment the text is node script. So what we're doing here is we're getting that component of the node text object. We're setting its text value to our node text in the dialog in the tree, and that's then saying, you know, it's now the text in node text is now saying, hi, I'm NPC whatever. Yeah. We're then setting all of the option buttons to false, and this is the free option buttons that we have. Sorry, set active. We're setting. So next we're setting the free option buttons we have to inactive, so they disappear. And then we're going through the node options list, and this is not very secure. So we should probably say or I equals 3. Sorry, or I is less than 2. Yeah, so 2 is the maximum index we ever want to do on this. Otherwise, if this options list has 4 options in it, but we've only got 3 buttons to display, then it's going to hit an index out of bounds exception and crash. So then what we're doing is we've got a switch statement based on I. If it's 0, set option button 1, node options I. So we've got this set options button function down here. We're passing in the button game object. Excuse me. So we've got this set option button function. This takes in a game object for the button we want to set, and it takes in a dialogue option object for the dialogue option that we want to set to the button. And what this is doing is it sets the button as active. It then gets the text component of the button. So we're using get component in children because buttons. If I just pop that on here, you can see buttons have a game object, which is the button itself, and then they have an inner game object, a child object, which is the text, and then that has the text script. So buttons are a bit odd in that they've got a button script on the parent, on the button object, and then inside that they've got a text script. Now that's quite useful actually, because if you want to add in, if you want other options like an image, you can add an image into this button, right? So say we have an icon for, say we have an icon for the different options. We can now set that and put an image inside that button. So that button now has text and an image. So that's the reason why the text is a separate object inside that. Because you might not want text, you might want an icon for like I don't know, something in your inventory or something. So this is all we want at the moment. So we're using get components in children. We're getting the text, the first text script or the first text component attached to any of the children inside the button, and then we're setting its text value to the option text. I also had this commented out here some debug text saying which node ID we were going to. And then we're getting the button component, so the button script in that button game object, and we're adding an event listener to that to say set selected option to the destination node ID. So that's basically wiring up our button. So we're setting the text there, so that's like the answer that the player wants to say, and then we're setting the destination node ID here, which is how the where the button goes to. And that's pretty much it. We've got an update function which doesn't do anything. So yeah, let's run that again from the top. Oh, in fact, actually, let me delete that first. So yeah, this is a fairly basic UI. It could be improved. Obviously, there's only provision for 3 options here. This doesn't change size. We still need to add in all of the, if I try on this one, we still need to add in like the NPC name and the NPC affiliation. We do have the navigation through the options, which is nice, and we can end conversation anywhere in there. So that's where we're at. Okay, I hope you found this useful. As you can see down the bottom of the page here, you can follow and support the project. I've got a Patreon page where all of these videos go up. You can use that as just a way to follow the videos. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel, and there's a Facebook group which is linked in the description below. If you want to support the project so I can spend more time making these videos, that would be great. I've got some cool ideas for doing like Q&A and like a kind of a monthly challenge. You know, so patrons can challenge me to make X, you know, make a component that does this in Unity, and then I'll go off and I'll do some videos explaining how I've done that. And the other thing is live streaming and you know, getting a new office and being able to work on this more full time. That's my kind of end goal. If the Patreon is going really well, I'm hoping that it will. I'll be able to move an office, get an office in town, and do 2 or 3 days a week working just on the game and on the videos, which would be awesome. And I'll be able to live stream that if I get an office in town with fibre optic connection. I won't be on crap ADSL, so that would be really awesome. Okay, anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Rock on, guys. Bye.